Business Morning here on Channels Television. We're discussing telecoms next. Yes, after that tariff, we did see that report that the demand or consumption of data reduced after that tariff. But the telecommunications company told us that they really needed that increase for them to be alive. Now, after that, we saw MTN announcing their first profit in 2 years. Guess what? We have the Chief Financial Officer here, MTN Nigeria, to tell us what he has done with our money since the tariff. So good morning and welcome to the program, Mr. Modupe Kadri.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
Well, I'm for the people,
yes,
so I pay
problem.
more now, so I'm going to demand on behalf of the people.
Yeah,
so how much of this profit from MTN Nigeria came from the tariff increase?
Well, truth be told that yes, the government did give approvals for the tariffs, headline, but there was actually a process behind that leading to the implementation, which meant that telcos had to submit individual approvals for each of those product plans. Now, that took a while, and effectively what you could have in this result is not more than 2 weeks of the effect of that, because it took a while to get all those approvals. And there was some noise in the market at the time that some products are no longer available, and that's because we're optimizing all those things in line with the NCC's directives.
So as part of your result, I think we did see that you made a purchase of equipment. I mean,
CapEx.
NCC also did say that some amount of money was spent, but at the end of the day, what consumers want to know is, when do we see this translating? So we've given you the air you need for survival. Now you say you have bought equipment. That was also part of your, in your report as MTN Nigeria. When do we see it translate to better network?
Well, so rightfully so, but what we need to understand is that investment is a process. And when we were doing the advocacy about the tariff increases, we had the agreement, or the argument at the time was that the telco industry had not got a tariff increase for the past 12 years at the time. So what that meant is that you will not have the ability to invest. Now, most of these equipment are not manufactured here, as you know. We have to import this equipment and put on the network, and that will take a while. So it's not like a light switch where you flip on the switch and you say, okay, we got your tariff increases now, I need the equipment. It's going to take a time. But one thing, as the results shows, we've put about 202 billion in Q1, which actually meant that we invested in faith, or put our faith in that we're going to get those tariff increases ahead of the increases, such that it would accelerate the deployment of those equipment. So you're going to see some changes Q2, Q3. It's our commitment, and we're committed.
We're in Q2 already, yes? So do we see it in this quarter? It's Q2?
Probably towards the early Q3, because it's a process. We have to import this equipment into the country. So.
And can we know you have base stations and things like that. Which of these areas are you focusing on?
So as a whole network, the network is complex. I'm not an engineer, so I don't intend to go into engineering. But you have the transmission side, you have the the fiber network, and you also have the base stations you talked about. Now, all these things cost a lot. I mean, the way the cell technology works basically is that the more users latch onto a cell, then it shrinks in size and all that. So it's either you have spectrum resources to amplify those broadcasts or those transmissions, or you build new sites. Either way, it's going to involve CapEx.
And recently we got a message from our banks, about the SMS charges. Is this feeding off the tariff increase? Is that going down that way?
Well, I'm not a spokesman for the banks, but I would...
But you give them the service.
Just like everybody pays for a service based on the commercials of the time. So I would say yes, maybe. The fact that the regulator announced a 50% increase across all products and services. So that, of course, would include SMS. To that extent, yes.
So looking at your results, the first profit, now there's a bit of stability to an extent, looking at the currency and all that. How is this feeding into your operations, and what can we expect Do we expect another hike because the naira? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and understandably so. So I would like to take you back to last year when we had a EGM, and where we actually announced some 5 key points we were going to do. Amongst them was to actually reduce our forex exposure, because it's a forex exposure that actually put us into this big hole that led us to negative equity, negative retained earnings, and we still have a 600 billion hole we're trying to fill. So to that extent, we've reduced those exposures, and what we're left now is to ensure that we do not get unduly exposed. So fluctuations or devaluation in the currency, whilst not welcome, but it's something that we can manage as long as it's not steep. To put it in context, we're talking about currency devaluing from 461 2 years ago to 1,500 levels or 1,600 levels today. That's huge.
Okay, we hear you. And we know you were talking about real deregulation of the industry where you can actually fix your prices and all of that. I wonder if you're getting headways with that. So we prepare our minds.
Well, I think it's a process. I think the starting point is that our commitment is to give Nigerians the quality of service they deserve. Everybody wants, first and foremost, a good quality service, and that's cost money. And we believe strongly that to the extent that as long as the appropriate pricing is in there, there will be an incentive to make those investments. Don't forget that people talk about the headlines in terms of revenue, but revenue is not profit, because ultimately it's what you give and return back to your stakeholders that would determine your sustainability as a business.
All right, revenue is not profit. I hear you, because you have operational cost also.
Exactly.
And it feeds into the revenue, or feeds from the revenue.
So your headline, your revenue can be a headline trillion, but bottom line is if your costs are outstripping like it was last year, then you will be making a loss.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Modupe Kajuri, the Chief Financial Officer of MTN Nigeria.
Thank you very much.